Hi, everyone. This is your host, Kristen Howe. I am so excited to welcome you to our call with today's guest, Art Geiser. The creator of Energetic NLP, Art is an internationally renowned teacher, intuitive, and healer. Art has a unique background. NLP trainer, medical researcher, consultant to major corporations in leadership, 29 years of study and development in the fields of NLP, spirituality, life coaching, healing, and intuition development. Art's gift is in helping people open their hidden abilities and integrate their inner wisdom and spirit into their daily lives. Art leads people to discover how amazing they truly are and to be healthier, more successful, enjoy being alive, and to contribute more to the world. And on today's call with Art, you will discover why the law of attraction only works sometimes and how to use it to create your authentic heart's desires. You'll find out what the 5 authentic agendas in your life are, why it's difficult to manifest what you want if those agendas are not in alignment, and you'll be guided in a process to create alignment between your 5 authentic agendas. You'll also discover that your unconscious mind has a secret coding system, and if you don't know how it works, it can actually interfere with your abundance. So, Art, I can't wait. I'm so excited to be able to share you with everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today, and welcome to the call.
Well, thank you, Kristen. I'm really excited and honored to be with you and with your audience.
I can't wait to hear a little bit more about your story. So if you could share a couple of minutes and just let us know maybe some of the major turning points that have occurred in your life that have allowed you to manifest your current level of success, that would be fantastic.
Well, when I was young, I was a very logical, science-oriented, even little boy. I was very proud of the fact that I would read books on science, and my father was an early computer guy, and I was just very proud of my abilities and just a lot of things people thought, I was one of those people thought, oh, he'll be really successful. And, I just had this love again for learning, but again, a very strong leaning towards logic, a little bit like, not as bad as Mr. Spock on Star Trek, but heading that way. And I started changing a bit when I was in college. And then afterwards, I got out of college and I had majored in biology because I always wanted to be a scientist when I grew up. And I realized that really wasn't the right place for me, but I had this degree and I had no idea what I wanted to do. And I applied for different research jobs and I had minimal requirements and no experience. And I went to this one interview and I was so sure they wouldn't hire me. I was just very relaxed and honest with them. And they hired me. And I was really thrilled. And for a long time, it was a really good job. But I never thought I was going to be there a long time. And I ended up being there 11 years. And for many of those years, I was just stuck. And it was so not like me. I mean, when I was 20, I quit school for a little while, got a one-way ticket to London, had a pack, and had no idea what was going to happen next, how I was going to get home. And I did it deliberately to have this adventure. So I was just a very adventurous in person. And then all of a sudden, I was stuck. There were a lot of good things about my job, and over lunch, I could go hear a Nobel laureate speak about things. I worked with great people, but I didn't belong there. And as time went on, I felt more and more bad about myself. And, and I knew everybody who knew me, my family, my friends, couldn't figure out, how did I get so stuck? And I didn't even have children who were dependent on me. I was just stuck for no apparent reason. And what began to open that crack was there was a student union and they would have classes at night that different people would come in and teach. And this doesn't sound unusual now, but years ago, I'd never heard of anybody teaching creativity. I didn't even know that was possible. And there was a 4-evening course on creativity. And I thought, well, that's intriguing. And I took the course. And the main thing I got out of it was I thought, here's a man, and his name's Bruce Honig. He's still around teaching creativity and other things. And I thought, here's a man who's doing something utterly fascinating, and he made it up, and he just started doing it. And I just it never occurred to me that was even possible. But the other thing that happened is he told me about a lecture on intuition, and I'd always, along with the science, been interested in dreams and hypnosis and psychology and ESP, but I hadn't done much with it. And I went to this talk on intuition, and there was a break. And I went out in the hallway, and there was a bulletin board, and there was a sign that said neuro-linguistic programming. And as I read the words, it literally felt like a lightning bolt went straight down the middle of my body. And I never had experienced anything like that. And the logical part of my mind was going, what was that? And the other part of my mind was going, what do you think it was? It was a sign. I mean, I didn't think in terms of things like signs back then. And, the logical part of my mind had, it was clear something amazing had just happened. So I started studying NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. And 5 minutes into the first course, I deliberately took what was supposed to be a great course from a great teacher. And 5 minutes into it, I could feel like, okay, I'm supposed to be here. And I had no idea where it was leading me, but I knew it was on my path. And I was very, very charmed and lucky in my whole NLP career. And I was studying in Marin County up north of San Francisco. And because it was Marin County, there were a number of people into different kinds of things like psychic development and channeling and clairvoyance. And this woman invited me to come to her house and said, there's a man, Lynn Martin, who'll be visiting town, and he's this amazing psychic and channeler, and you ought to come and see him. And I thought, well, this will be fun. I'd never gone to anything like that. And I got there late, so he didn't have a chance to talk to me or listen to me or read me. And when I came, everybody was sitting in a big circle, and he had his eyes closed. And everybody had a chance to ask him a question. And I noticed that when he answered people, sometimes the answer sounded significant to me, and sometimes it didn't sound like that big a deal. But I would look at the person, and they always looked like it was something really major. So I thought, okay, there's something really going on here, because he would say things, everything he said to people really affected them, even if it didn't sound that deep. But when they asked him like a what should I do question, he'd go, you have free will. It's not for me to tell you what you should do. So being sometimes a little dense, when it got to me, I asked him, well, I'm learning all this NLP and other things, and I don't know what to do with it. And he goes, well, it's not for me to tell you what to do with it. You have free will. And then he goes, but there's something else. And then he proceeds to tell me my biggest fear that I had never mentioned to anybody ever. And it probably didn't sound that big to anybody else, but it was big to me. And when he was done telling me what the fear was, he goes, you don't need to worry about that. And I felt this enormous amount of energy and like this weight was lifted from me. So he was teaching a workshop the next weekend, and I took it, and I never looked back. And I've studied with amazing, amazing teachers from both Western traditions, and had 2 empowerments from the Dalai Lama of Tibet, and studied with a Philippine psychic healer. I mean, just Hawaiian Huna, and there's a very well-known healer. Some of the listeners might know John of God in Brazil, and he doesn't teach per se, but for about 10 years, he's been energetically working me to keep improving my healing and intuitive abilities and for my spiritual growth. So I've been blessed to have amazing teachers. And then I started taking the different spiritual and energetic healing and transformative energy things I was learning and things that I developed. And I started putting that together with NLP, which is more logic-based and more technical. And I found that when I put them together, it was much more powerful than any of them apart. And NLP by itself was amazing. Energy work and healing work by itself was amazing. But I found when you put them together, it was like 1 + 1 = 10.
Wow. That's so cool. And by the way, Art, something that you said to me right before we started that I'd love to share with everybody is Art said that he will be, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you said you will be energetically working with all of us throughout the call. Is that correct? Is that the right way to say it?
That's the right way to say it. And I'm also glad you brought it up, because if anybody's listening to me in a moving vehicle, either turn it off or pull over, or listen to the recording later, because we're going to start working with very powerful energies. And some people don't feel them, and it works whether you feel it or not. And for a lot of people, it puts them in an altered state, which is really wonderful and enjoyable, but not when you're driving.
Yeah, please no.
So thank you for bringing that up. But I've already started a little bit, but we're going to be working with very powerful energies. And let me assure people of a couple of things. One is, I'm not going to choose what those energies do for them. There's a term that I invented. I call it your miraculous self. And it's when your inner wisdom and your spirit work together. And what I'm going to be encouraging people starting now is to have the intention that their miraculous self is in charge of what the energies do for them. So the energies will clear blocks and limitations and heal old traumas and emotions in them. But they don't need to consciously figure it out. And it's not going to be whatever I think they need. Your own inner wisdom and spirit, again, what I call the miraculous self, knows exactly what's best for you. So I really encourage everybody, just for once, relax, turn over conscious control. If sometimes people, when they go into a bit of an altered state, can't remember everything I've said, but this is recorded. So you can always listen to it later. But so again, it's that intention. In all manifestation, two things that are very important. One is to have our intention. And I'd like to assure people, because you don't have to have a specific intention, like I want to make X amount of money or have exactly this house. Your intention could be, I want a home that I love. That works. You can have the intention of, I want a job or career or business that gives me financial stability and freedom, and where I work with great people and I really contribute, whatever your criteria are, but it doesn't have to be specific beyond that. But intention is critical. The other part that most people aren't aware of is permission. And it used to surprise me first that sometimes people would desperately yearn and want something, but when I would start working with them energetically, all this resistance would come up. And the resistance is coming out of their entire energy field. And we're like sponges. We're soaking up energies all the time ever since we were in our parents' womb, our mother's womb, I guess I should say. And we're absorbing programming and emotions and beliefs from people. In fact, in energy work, we often say that any emotion that somebody has never been able to handle well, probably it's because most of the energy of that emotion isn't yours. You absorbed it from other people. And the reason you can't handle it well is it's not yours. There'll be an element of it that's yours. So one of the things we'll be doing in this call, and one of the things that I teach people how to do very thoroughly, is to clear other people's energy and programming out of their space. Now, for the purpose of what we're doing today, a great way to get to full permission, because again, there's programming from your parents, from your ancestors, just from society, from cultures, from groups in our space. The easiest way to not overcome it, but make it irrelevant, is just for everybody who's listening to realize in their mind that you're the king or queen of your energy field. And you have a right and even an obligation to make choices in your life. It's your life, and spiritually, you get to make choices. And everybody can choose right now to give 100% permission for their miraculous self to be in charge, and 100% permission that as a result of what this interview we're doing today and the processes they'll learn and the concepts they'll learn, that as a result of it, they're giving 100% permission to have a wonderful enhancement in their manifestation. Now.
I love that. And permission, that's something I can honestly say I have done so many interviews, I couldn't even possibly count that high, and I've never heard that concept of permission come up. That's huge.
Well, we kept, some of my students and myself, and now graduates, we kept noticing, and finally we went, we really need to concentrate on permission. And it's huge and enormous. And it's one of the reasons we're going to talk about that the law of attraction doesn't always work, is sometimes somebody completely has the intention for it, but there's not permission. And when people give permission, sometimes they might see images that are counter that, or they might hear voices that go, you're not worthy, you're not good enough, or they might feel like they're not entitled, or anything like that. And what I advise people do, and anybody who's been in a family or had parents or kids or been in a relationship, has the ability to listen to people talk and go, and have no intention of doing what they say, but you're just letting them know, I heard you, and you don't fight them, but you're not giving them power either. In the same way, like I say, in the training programs, people learn how to clear the real causes of this. But for right now, very powerful just to, if a voice goes, well, you're not worthy, or you can't handle success, any of that kind of thing, just go, and then ignore it, acknowledge it, and then don't fight it, don't feed it, just leave it alone. And everybody will find that their permission level will go way, way up. It's as simple as that.
Talk to me a little bit more about the law of attraction, how sometimes it's like it works brilliantly and other times it's not others. Is it that element of permission, or is there more to it?
Oh, there's a lot more to it. Just to briefly sum it up. So the idea of the law of attraction is that if you're clear on what you want and you're putting positive energy out, that's what you'll get back. So there's a number of things that can get in the way. One is the unconscious programming and blocks, and we'll be working on that. And by the way, it's not just from parents. It gets energetically passed down generation to generation to generation to generation. And parents don't realize it, but they're programmed to program their children. That's not a bad thing, because all of us had to be programmed how to survive in whatever tribe, family, village, city, society we grew up in. And children have to be taught what to do, and even simple things like look both ways before you cross the street, because a child's not going to naturally do that. But everybody listening to this is old enough to let go of that programming and make their own decisions and operate out of their own inner wisdom and spirit. But another part of it is we're complex beings. One of the ways that people get themselves in trouble is they try to go, I'm a this or that, I'm a nice person or a bad person. Everything's like this or that, like black or white. And we're not like that. I mean, part of what makes human beings so amazing and creative is we're diverse. We have all kinds of things going on inside of us, and that gives us a great strength if we recognize that whatever we are is more than all those little pieces. We're not any one part of it. And there's a number of agendas that run people's lives. 5 of them, in my opinion, are truly authentic to the person, and the other 3 are external. And if I can just say something quickly on the side, that when I do my training programs, I make people take a pledge that goes, I will not believe anything art tells me. I will learn and explore and discover my own truth. So I want your listeners to know I'm putting out ideas, and I'm doing that so that their own inner wisdom and spirit will either go, yes, that's a good idea, or it'll give you something even better for you. So one way of thinking of this is there's these 8 agendas that run our lives. And the 5 ones that I call authentic are the agendas of the body, the wants and needs of the body. So all of our bodies are intelligent, and they know what they want and need. There's the agendas of our unconscious mind. In an energetic NLP, we talk about the unconscious mind having different parts and aspects. A lot of people are familiar with the idea of inner child work. Well, it's more like inner children. There's the happy young you, there's the scared young you, there's the part of you that feels like an old person. I mean, we have all these different complex aspects of our unconscious mind, and they don't want the same thing. And the people who started NLP first discovered this because they said, well, you listen to people and they go, well, part of me wants this, but part of me wants something else. Part of me wants to get married. Part of me wants freedom. Part of me wants a new job. Part of me wants security. So we have these internal conflicts that can go on. In an energetic NLP, we do a lot of work to soothe out those conflicts and turn them into alignment. And I can't explain too much about that now, but let's just say that your body has agendas, your unconscious mind has multiple agendas, and the process that we're going to do is going to work with all that. Then your conscious mind has agendas, and that's what you would tell people or yourself that you really want and what you really don't want. Then the next 2 areas, a lot of people haven't thought of this distinction before. The next 2 of the authentic ones are your soul and your spirit. In many religious traditions and many spiritual traditions, differentiate between a person's soul and their spirit. Now, one of the problems with a lot of spiritual and energetic work, people use the same words to mean opposite things. So if the way I'm describing it to people seems backwards to them, they can flip it. So your soul and spirit are the non-physical you, the bigger being that you are. And what I mean when I call your soul is the lower energy frequencies of your non-physical self. So they're literally closer to your body. They're the lower energy frequencies. And lower and higher doesn't mean worse and better. In this case, it's just different. So your physical body's at a much lower energy than your mental self, but it doesn't make it worse. It's just different. So the soul is at this lower vibration than the spirit. And in my experience, people's soul are just kind of a click above where their personality is. So the soul has wants and needs, and it even has something sort of like an unconscious aspect to itself. In that, I used to wonder why I'd hear people say, you hear some people who do work, they do soul repair and soul retrieval. And I would think, well, souls don't need to be repaired. They're perfect. But I was thinking of the person's spirit. There is a lower level of non-physical self, the soul, which is much more directly involved with this lifetime and is operating at a slightly higher level than our human personality, but not that much higher. Then the spirit is when you go higher up into your non-physical self, and the spirit is operating from a whole different perspective. And what happens is that sometimes the spirit has almost too high of a perspective. So everybody's spirit cares about them. But often when I'm working with somebody's spirit, it's like a lot of things are okay. It's okay if they're abundant. It's okay if they're poor, because the spirit will go, well, you're going to learn and grow either way. And the spirit is kind of like the, when we think of the perfect mother who goes, whatever you want, dear, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So it's very important and it can guide us, but sometimes it's too far away from normal everyday human life where the soul is right there. So we have the agendas of the body, the unconscious mind, the conscious mind, the soul, and then the agendas of the spirit. Now, each of those agendas are manifesting by the law of attraction. So if your soul wants something different than your spirit, which wants something different than your conscious mind, which wants something different than your unconscious mind or body, then it's hard to manifest or sustain things because we're giving life, the universe, spirit, or, however the listener thinks of it, we're giving like opposite instructions. Mm-hmm. It's like if you were at a restaurant and you ordered 10 different entrees, and they're not sure which one to actually give you. And they start to give you one and you go, no, I want a different one. And so you never actually get to eat. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So you say that obviously having these authentic agendas aligned is really the key to us being able to manifest, correct?
Exactly. There's a couple of other things, but it's the most important part. And it's why most people go, gee, how come I can manifest something so easily? And then other things I can't. And there can be several reasons for that, but often what it is because when things just manifest really easily, you're totally aligned with it. Right. And so it's like, boom, it can be there. Where if you're giving out these opposing messages to energy and to spirit, then things get chaotic. And often they try to manifest, but they can't.
It makes complete sense. And I know that you have an energetic NLP process to align them. Is that something you could take us through now?
I would love to. And let me remind people, for this part, absolutely for sure, no driving. or if you're listening into the car, even if the driver's not listening, I would still turn it off because often they start feeling the energy. Let me just say real briefly, because I didn't mention this before, in energetic NLP, we do a lot of remote energy work. And some people think that's some mysterious gift. It's not. Every single person on the planet can do this kind of things. They just haven't learned how or they have programming blocking us. Everybody can do this. It's not some mysterious gift that I have. I've just learned how to do it. To make it in the simplest form, in physics, they talk about energies that are non-local. And what that means is they're not in one place, they're every place. And in physics, they recognize this as a real thing. Well, a lot of the energies that I'm using are non-local. And so like 99% of my client work is over the telephone. And very often my clients are 6,000 miles away from me. That's kind of normal, or 1,000 miles. And it doesn't make any difference. And I'm not asking them to believe this or not, but I just want them to know wherever they are when they're listening, even if they're listening to the replay, because the energies are also not stuck in time. And if they imagine them flowing, so if anybody's listening to a replay, if you imagine the energies are flowing right now while you're listening, it'll be every bit as strong. And I get lots of emails from people going, yeah, I didn't really buy that, and I just couldn't believe what happened. So again, don't use this in a moving vehicle. Okay, are we ready to start after all my talking?
Absolutely. I can't wait.
Okay. So I ask everybody just to relax, take a couple easy deep breaths. And I want to make it clear to people that people react differently to this kind of work. Most people find it really enjoyable. Most people, somewhere when I'm talking, are going to go to a very altered state. And when we're finished, you probably won't remember what I've said. And just remember, if part of your mind wants to know what I said, you listen to the replay, when the energies are flowing, sometimes people feel sleepy. Sometimes they feel alert. Sometimes they feel tingles. People may temporarily feel a pain or even headache or even a lot nausea, but it will be temporary. And that's just because energies are releasing that are hitting you that way, but it's a good thing. A very few people will pay absolute attention to everything I'm saying, and that's fine too. I had a woman recently go, but you didn't give clear instructions on what we're supposed to do. And I said, well, set your intention, give permission, and then just relax. And there isn't anything else you have to do consciously. Just give it over to your miraculous self. And most of us aren't used to that. So the hard part for a lot of people will be letting this be easy. So I'd like everybody to set their intentions about their own manifestation in their lives. And it can be as simple as a result of this process, their manifestation is going to get incredibly better. It can be as simple as that. And then I'd like people to assert their right as a spiritual being in a body to make choices and just go, I'm giving my own spirit, my own wisdom, my miraculous self 100% permission to use the energies that are going to flow now to align the different parts of me. Excellent. And then I'm going to describe the rest of this as a visualization. And I want to assure people, if you see it in your mind's eye, wonderful. If you just think of it in words, wonderful. If you just drift off, that's wonderful. And if you just pretend it's happening, that's wonderful, or just feel it. All of those work perfectly fine. It's just easier to describe as a visualization. So I invite everybody now to imagine being out somewhere where it's one of those gorgeous, beautiful, sparkling, starry nights, when you're away from the lights of a city. And imagine you're someplace where you're comfortable and it feels very safe. You might have people with you that you're really comfortable with. I always think of just sort of a pleasantly warm night, but that's what I like. And as you look up at the twinkling stars, imagine that one of the stars comes down and it stays tiny. And in front of you now is this little tiny twinkling star. And let that star represent your body, the agenda of your body, its wants and its needs. Let another star come down and let it represent your unconscious mind. And when you look in that star, you realize it's one star, but inside of it are lots of other little stars. And this represents the agendas of your unconscious mind. And each little star in it is a different part of your unconscious mind. And thank your unconscious mind for being present. Allow a third star to come down, and it represents your conscious mind. What you now, today, this minute, want in your life and what you don't want. Let a fourth star come down and let it represent your soul and the wants and needs of your soul. And let a fifth star come down and let it represent your spirit and the agenda, the wants and needs of your spirit. Now let those 5 stars form into a circle. You may be familiar with the term dialogue, and dialogue is different than a conversation. In dialogue, whoever is speaking fully expresses, and it's everyone else's job to fully listen. And they keep taking turns fully expressing and fully listening. They don't debate things. They don't argue things. Everybody expresses and everybody listens. And I do work in corporations too. And when you do dialogue with a group in a corporation, it starts out a little messy and chaotic, but then magic happens. Out of dialogue, if people really express and really listening, magical things happen. It always works out that way. imagine now that these 5 aspects of yourself and you're all of those things and more, those 5 aspects of your authentic self are starting to dialogue with one another. They're fully expressing, fully listening, fully expressing, fully listening. Now, I like to entertain myself and see them twinkle when they're the one expressing, but that's just the way I like to do it. And as they continue to dialogue, let another star come down and let it be to the left of the circle. Let it be to the left of the circle. And inside of it are different stars. And these stars represent the agendas of every group your family or you have ever identified with. So it could be religion, nationality, ethnicity. It could be being a teenager. Any group that you identify with or your family ever identified with, they're represented in that star. Now, that star is not part of the dialogue. It's not part of the decision-making process, but it's there just so that you're aware of the agendas of those groups and be aware that your agendas may or may not match them. We can be very loyal to our background and our ethnicity and our cultures, and at the same time go, but that's not what I'm choosing for my life now. And of course, a lot of those agendas are years old, centuries old, millennia old. So that star is to the left of your circle of stars. Let another star come down, let it be to the right of your circle of stars. And that represents the agendas of humanity as a whole, the collective consciousness of humanity. And again, you just want to be aware of humanity's agendas, and you don't want to interfere with them, but you don't have to exactly follow them. So if a lot of humanity now is looking at conflict and suffering, you want to be aware of that and respect it, but you don't have to be part of it. And one more star is going to come down, and it's above your circle of stars. And that star represents, and I'm going to use different terms because different people have different belief systems, God, spirit, goddess, all that is, universal mind, and I could keep on going, Buddha, Allah. It's whatever you think of as being a greater consciousness. And that star shining down on your circle of stars, not to control them, but to guide them, nurture them, and help them. And from the heart of the earth, supportive Mother Nature, Mother Earth energies are coming into your circle of stars to support them in creating an aligned agenda. And also everything we manifest in this reality, in our Earth reality, has to involve Earth energy. So the Earth is sending you energies to use for manifestation. And as this process continues, in the center of the circle of stars is a point of light is forming. In the center of the circle of stars, a little point of light is forming. And that's this aligned agenda, the beginning of an aligned agenda, that every aspect of you, your body, your unconscious mind, your conscious mind, your soul, and your spirit can support. And every part of you now is getting a healing and clearing and enhancing. As they dialogue, they're healing. As they dialogue, they're clearing. As they dialogue, they're opening up to their spiritual nature. And as they dialogue, that point of light in the center of the circle is starting to grow into a ball of light. And let the ball of light in the center of the circle, that aligned agenda, get bigger and brighter, clearer, more sparkly, more beautiful. Oh, nice. And then take that ball of light and bring it into the center of your chest, which is the heart energy center. And then that energy goes through your heart into your bloodstream, and your blood supplies every single cell in your body. So let your blood spread this energy to every single cell in your body, so that every cell in your body is now resonating with and is aligned with this aligned agenda that every aspect of yourself can support. From the soles of your feet up to the top of your head and the tips of your fingers. Most people know that DNA has two physical strands, the double helix. Well, there's also energetic strands of DNA. Many people who can see energy report, and I see the same thing, that there are these other strands of DNA, but they're not physical, they're energetic. Let this energy from your aligned agenda adjust your DNA, both the physical strands and the energetic strands, so that down to the level of your DNA, your body is resonating and aligned with this aligned agenda, with this ability to manifest your heart's desires in your life. That's great. Take easy, deep breaths. Let all the stars disappear and let all the energies go back where they belong. And I'd like to add something to this. The earth, life, spirit, everything around us loves to manifest. The earth is constantly manifesting. The earth is not static or done. It's constantly growing and changing. Every creature on this planet grows and changes and has a desire to manifest. Spirit itself, since we're all a representation of spirit, clearly spirit has this incredible desire to manifest. And just set your intention now and give permission for your miraculous self to really increase your connection to these earth and universal energies of manifestation, so that every day they grow more present and powerful in your life, so that every day your ability to manifest authentically and manifest your heart's desires increases. And that's something that can happen easily and naturally. All you need to do is give permission for that process to start now and continue maybe for your whole life. We all have the ability to work with these energies. They're here for us to work with. We can tap into more of these incredible energies of manifestation. And along with that, I suggest that you have the intention and give permission to connect with the joy of action and the joy of completion and the joy of manifestation. And then imagine a gold ball of energy above your head and let it retrieve your energy from wherever you've scattered it, because we all leave our energy all over the place. Everything from where we work, we leave it in other people's space, we leave it in the past, we put it in the present and future. And just let your gold ball pull back your energy Let it clean up your energy, charge it up, make it sparkling, and let it send your energy down through your body, filling up your body and energy field with your energy and with gold universal energy, which is a very wonderful, neutral, spiritual energy. And your energy field is in your body and around your body, so it's filling up in front of you and in you, behind you, above you, left, right, and below you. Okay, then it's a good idea to begin to lightly move and maybe lightly stretch. It helps to really pat your body, even stomp your feet, come back fully into present time. Great. Well, how are you doing, Kristen?
I am buzzing from head to toe.
Great.
Yeah, and I felt like this, I don't even know if I can find the words to describe it, but sort of this vastness open up inside me and around me, if that makes any sense.
Oh, it makes incredible sense.
That was amazing. And I can see why that's so powerful to get everything in alignment, because, yeah, I mean, that's when I feel right now, I feel like, oh, okay. So everything that I have ever wanted to show up in my life or be is here. Like, that can just happen.
Yay. That's great.
Yeah, that's a great thing. That's an amazing thing. So thank you so much for taking us through that. That was really, really extraordinary. I know you talk about the secret coding system of the mind.
Mm-hmm.
What is that? How does that factor into our ability to manifest abundance as well?
I'm glad you asked. I'm really excited about this. It's something that comes out of NLP, but I know a lot of other NLP trainers, and whenever I've taught this to people, even who are very experienced in NLP, they go, I never thought of applying it this way. There's a secret coding system to the mind. And I'll just mention right now, there's a really good book on this by Richard Bandler, and it's a very simple book. And the insight that people in NLP had, I mean, simple and amazing book. You know, they started asking themselves, well, when you think of something, how do you know how to categorize it? So you think of something, how do you know it's from the past, the present, or the future? If you think of a belief, you know, often we immediately know I believe it or I don't believe it. How do we know that immediately? How do we immediately know that it was past or future or present? How do we immediately know we like it or dislike it? And what they began to discover was there's a coding system that's invisible and secret to most of us, which our mind uses to code our thoughts. And code in this case means like to label them, like I believe this, I don't believe that. This was the past, this was the future. This is happening, this is just a fantasy. There's all these different coding systems. And they discovered that there were really easy ways to start figuring out what they were. And the first time I ever heard about this, I was going to an NLP study group, and it was fairly new in NLP at the time. I mean, this is probably back in 83 or 84 probably. And I've actually read I think it was an advertisement for the book. I hadn't even read it yet. But I'd studied some modalities, but not this way. And I told my friends, I go, I think they're saying something really amazing in this book. I think they're saying that you can recode beliefs and instantly change them. You can take a limiting belief and recode it to a doubt. You can take something that you want to believe, but unconsciously you don't. You can recode it to a belief. And we just really didn't even know what we were doing yet. And that evening, each and every one of us got a belief change that was really huge in our life. I mean, one that stands out in my mind, one of the women was pregnant, and her mother really hurt her neck when my friend was born. And somehow she'd always believed that when she had a child, it was going to cause her like permanent damage of some kind. And 15 minutes later, she didn't believe it anymore, and it never came back. And there were things about manifestation, abundance, and worth, all kinds of things. And it turns out this coding system is pretty simple. And one of the things that, and where I applied this to the law of attraction, was I realized people would be going, well, I keep visualizing what I want or I'm doing these affirmations, but they're not working. And sometimes it would be because the agendas weren't aligned, but other times it was because of the way they were coding it. And we code some things as wishes or fantasies, wishes or fantasies. And this is an important ability. If you don't have this ability, you can end up institutionalized. I mean, we all sometimes have fantasies, and we might be enjoying the fantasy, but we have no intention of doing it. So I might fantasize about running off and being a rock star. Well, I don't want to run off and be a rock star, but it could be a fun fantasy. Or it could be a fantasy of doing something that I don't really even think is appropriate, but it could be fun to think about it. And because it's coded as a fantasy, your conscious and unconscious mind know, oh, I'm not supposed to do anything with this. And that's the key thing. You're telling yourself, I'm not supposed to do anything. This is just a fantasy. And a wish is similar. It's like, it's not really supposed to happen. I'm just wishing. If people recode their wishes and fantasies into either like this is happening or it will happen, something like that, the mind starts working on it, and then the law of attraction kicks in. But as long as you're telling your mind, don't do this, even while you think you're telling it to do it, your mind goes, okay, this is a fantasy. I'm going to leave it alone. Is that making sense so far?
Absolutely. That was just kind of blowing my mind. I was like, wait a minute.
In all of our sensory systems, the coding can occur. It can be visual coding, auditory coding, which can be sounds or words or voices that you're hearing. And for the people who don't hear voices in their heads, it's not about being crazy. A lot of us think in words. We hear them. Other people think in pictures. Everybody does all of these things, not necessarily consciously. Other people think a lot in feelings and body sensations. And all of these contain coding. And the visual system is one of the easiest to use. And I'm going to explain the visual and the auditory. So I'd like people listening, and I invite you, Kristen, to think of something that's a fun fantasy, but you have no intention of manifesting it. And you don't need to tell me what it is, but just pick something and start thinking about it. And it's just fun,
Okay.
And then and I'm not going to ask you content, but are there mental images that you're getting while you think about it?
Yep, absolutely.
Now, something that most of us have never noticed is that these mental images often will appear to be somewhere in our visual field. They might be right in front of us. They might be up to the left. They might be up to the right. They might be down. They might be behind us. So this fantasy picture, and again, I invite everybody to do what I'm taking Kristen through. Where does a picture appear to be in your visual field?
It was upright.
Okay, it's upright. Very good. And I have to say this aside because Kristen is an actress. I've had people who do theater, or at least who write plays and stuff, have recognized this. And this person told me that from the audience perspective, often the good character, the heroic characters come in from the right, and the people that are supposed to be bad or the people that are problems will come in from the left.
Funny.
And it's because most people have things coded that way. Part of the reason left-handers used to get a lot of suspicion because people would associate the left with something wrong. But your fantasy picture is up to the right. Is it clear or fuzzy, detailed, or not?
It's clear.
Mm-hmm.
It feels distant, but it's definitely detailed.
Okay, it's clear, it's distant, it's detailed, and it's up to the right.
Uh-huh.
Now, the rest of you listening, your characteristics might be different. And what she's describing are what we call submodalities. So to us, modalities are like, there's a seeing modality, there's a hearing modality, a feeling modality. Submodalities are the components. So it's like when you go in an art museum, you notice how big a picture is, how colorful it is, where is it? Is it detailed or not? Is it realistic? Does it have a frame around it? Well, it's the same with our mental images. All those little pieces will have coding. And location for most people is one of the most powerful factors, the location of the image. So I'd like you just to dissolve that image. Okay. And then I'd like you to think of something that you think of that you know you're going to manifest. Absolutely.
Okay.
And describe this picture. Where is it in your visual field? What's it like?
It's dead center. Dead center.
Okay.
And it's actually, it's less visual. It's less like I'm looking at it,
Mm-hmm.
and more like it's, I don't know, it feels more like a knowing than something I'm seeing. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. It's
okay.
dead center. Do you feel like you're looking out of your real eyes as opposed to looking at something?
Yes. In fact, when I thought of that, my eyes literally dropped, like I was looking right in front of me.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So it's dead center. Now, I'd like you to notice, and you may not talk to yourself, but if you were going to talk to yourself, just notice what comes up in your head and what the voice is like and where the voice is coming from.
Yeah, it's a very certain voice.
Mm-hmm.
That literally, it's just sort of in the fullness. It's like in the center of my head, the top part of my head, and it's literally just saying, "Yep."
Great. The way you said that, I like, "Yep," is probably very powerful for you.
Yeah, yeah.
And when it comes, so with the voice, it's the characteristics we might think. It's tone, it's tempo, it's whose voice, but again, also the location. In this case, up in the center of your head. So what you can do is repackage them. So it's a lot like even if I was standing at a distance, if I held up a soda bottle and a wine bottle, you might not be able to read the labels, but you'd go, okay, that's a soda bottle, that's a wine bottle, because the shape is a submodality. It's a coding system.
Oh, I see.
Well, with the mind, it's like if I could pour soda into the wine bottle, it would become wine. So if you repackage your thoughts, in fact, and to give people a clue how powerful this was, I had heard you could use this with grief and acceptance. Mm-hmm. And a woman came to see me back in the 80s. Her son had tragically died in a fishing accident when he was 17, and it was like 10 years ago. And she goes, I still cry every time I think about him. I'd like to feel good when I think about him. It's been 10 years. And we repackaged her grief into acceptance, and that was it. After that, she could think of him and feel good. I'm not saying she never felt sad, because that wouldn't be normal, but her predominant experience was to recapture the joy of when he was alive. I mean, I was doing it like a cookbook. I'd never done it before, but I knew the process. And that's how powerful this is. You don't even have to be good at it.
Well, and I love how you said it with the simplicity of, you have a soda bottle and a wine bottle, and if you take the wine and pour it in the soda bottle, now it's like that's such a simple way of seeing it. It's so clear.
Thank you. That pleases me, because one of my missions is to make complicated things clear whenever possible.
Well, you do a great job of it. It's
important to me. So now what I'm going to invite you to do, and people listening, is think of something that you want to manifest, but you haven't been manifesting.
Okay.
Okay. Now, when you think about this, where is the image? Describe the image this time.
It was upright.
Yeah, and I want everybody who's listening to get that. It's packaged as a fantasy.
Yep.
And it's up to the right, it's further away, and whatever other differences. Yeah. So now what I'm going to ask you to do is to take that image, and imagine you can push it way out in the distance till it's a dot.
Okay.
And then I'll go 1, 2, 3. And when I say 3, I want you to zoom the picture back, only this time it will be where the definite picture was. It'll be right dead center. Okay. And I want you to imagine a voice going, yep, or if I'm remembering it right, coming from the center of your head.
Okay.
Okay. So I'll give everybody a minute to find an image of something they want to manifest. And by the way, for people listening, you don't have to have the right image. Whatever one pops up, unless you really hate it, will probably be perfect. And if you're having trouble with the image, just create a symbol. I usually just use a little glowing ball of energy, and it means whatever I want it to mean. Symbols mean whatever we choose to have them mean. So take that image, everybody, and push it way off in the distance. And when I count to 3, zoom it back to the place wherever the listener's definite picture was. And if you haven't determined that yet as a listener, you could do that after the call. So push this one way out in the distance, 1, 2, 3, bring it right back to the definite place. And hear whatever voice is in your head, like, in Kristen's case, is, yep. And then just let that fade away. And the best way to do that is just look around the room, just divert yourself. And then, Kristen and everybody listening, think of this thing that you want to manifest again and just notice, where is it now? What does it sound like now?
Yeah, now it's completely like the definite one.
Excellent. And for people listening, if it's moved towards the definite location and sounding more like it, but it's not all the way there, then just keep repeating it. And you might need to repeat it over a period of minutes, or it could be a couple of days. And if it still doesn't happen, then do the alignment process again and then try it. But it's as simple as that. You find out for yourself, when you think of something that's just a fantasy that you have no intention of doing, what does it look like when you picture it? Where is it? Is it clear or vague, colorful, black and white, close, far? Where is it in the visual field? These are any characteristics that stand out for you. And also, if you were going to talk to yourself about it, what would it sound like? Where would the voice be? And like with Kristen's case, the definite voice sounded very definite. And very often the definite voice will either be ours or a neutral voice that we like. So when I do my rock star thing, it's kind of like, oh, it'd be fun to be a rock star. I'm exaggerating, but it's kind of this light, bouncy voice. But if I think it's something I'm definitely going to do, it's a more masculine. No, it's a more solid, deeper voice. So you discover the differences. And if people want, they can also notice other different body sensations. So often the one you're definite about, you'll feel it more in the midline of the body. And people can write these down. Once they're finding out about their own coding system, then think of something they want to manifest but haven't, and then see which coding system it fits. If it's more like the fantasy or not fully like the definite one, just push it out in the distance. On 3, bring it back to the definite spot and change the voice and the feelings to fit it. And you may only need to do that once. You might need to do it a couple times. If they do it a couple of times, just take a break in between each time, because we're trying to teach your mind to package it a certain way, not go in a loop. So just do it, look around the room, do it. And then the test is when you think about it, does it just automatically come up that way? One other thing I'd like to share is one of my teachers back in the 80s taught us something I thought was wonderful, because when you want to manifest something, ask for what you want and then go, or better, or better. And that gives your miraculous self, your spirit, and your wisdom permission to give you something that you don't know to want yet. And I think everybody's had the experience sometimes of they didn't get what they thought they wanted, and then that sends them down a path where they get something that's so much better that they weren't looking for.
Yeah, I love that. That's perfect. That's absolutely perfect. I just love this art. It's so powerful, and everything that you've taken us through, all of the experiences, and that's really what I want to call them, is experiences. I can see how powerful they are in terms of being able to, manifest the life that we want to manifest. So that's amazing, and thank you for doing that. Can you share with us 1 or 2 success stories of people that have worked with what you're teaching, just to give us an idea of what's possible?
I had 3 people in my classes who were definitely, according to them, losing their houses. It was like definite, no way to save them. All 3 of them saved their houses.
Wow.
And all 3 of them said it wasn't possible. And we changed, we did a lot of work around that and changed it. Lots of people talk about either they get new jobs or better clients, or they get amazing invitations. It might be to conferences or all kinds of different things. And their business does a lot better. Or sometimes people get new jobs, and sometimes their current job becomes a lot better. They might like their job, but there's things about it, maybe people they don't get along with, and very often that really radically shifts. One that was very funny to me is this one woman. She was a single mother, and she said, "Oh, Art, you're so lucky you can travel." And I go, "Well, why don't you travel?" And she goes, "Well, I just can't afford to." And I did some work with her on changing her beliefs around travel. And 2 weeks later, she sends me an email and she goes, my brother who lives in England, out of the blue, wrote me and said he's sending a ticket for my daughter and I to come to England.
Wow. How great is that?
I have a colleague named John Friedlander. We work together a lot. And one of his students was, again, a single mother, not much money. And she was in the supermarket with her little daughter, and the daughter wanted some candy or something. And the mother goes, well, if you can manifest the money, you can have it. And the daughter goes like this, Mommy, and points on the floor, and there's a $5 bill. The mother's going, yes, exactly.
So great. I love the sort of repackaging and all of that stuff that you took us through. And obviously, I know that there is so much more to that. I asked you to put together a special offer for everyone who's listening, and you very generously did. So go ahead, click on the special offer button that's on this webpage, and we will take you right there so that Art can talk us through what's there. And Art, go for it. Let us know what we'll find there.
Great. The first part of it is 6 months, which is 6 monthly sessions of my Energy of Abundance teleworkshops. And the idea behind it is we're not trying to get it all done in one session. I really want to support people by having it. We do this 1 month and this another month. And 6 months might sound like a long time, but it doesn't take 6 months for the improvements to start happening. But that way, people really have sustained support. I'm not a big fan of one-offs where, it's a great thing, and it doesn't compare to when you have support. So that's one aspect, these 6 months, 6 sessions of the Energy of Abundance calls. And they're only about 45 minutes, so they're very doable, and they're recorded, and people can replay them all they want. They also get some MP3 downloads, and the first one is a 3-part series called Emotional Freedom. I'm very, very proud of this. One of my mentors in NLP was a developer of NLP called Leslie Cameron Bandler, who's just this phenomenal woman. And she developed this amazing system for emotional freedom and never needing to be afraid of your emotions again. And it's amazing material. And at the Festival of Enlightenment in Colorado, I did a workshop incorporating Leslie's work and then adding the energetic component, which made it much, much, much more powerful and effective, the two things together. So people get that as an MP3 audio, and people have told me that makes a huge difference in their whole relationship to their own emotions and their relationship to other people's emotions. And there's another MP3 of a day-long workshop that was called Living a Charmed Life. And this is one of my favorite workshops where we open people up to the energies of having a charmed life. And everybody has either known people or even in our own lives, everybody's had some experiences where their life was just charmed, where things just, I'm not saying there wasn't any effort involved, but the doors open, things just happen. If you need help, it arrives. And an energetic NLP, it's one of the biggest things I want for people is to open up to the miracle of life and the magicalness of life, that there's guidance available to us always, that there's support always, that help will manifest. And so this whole workshop is in clearing our blocks to this, because one of the reasons it often doesn't happen for people is people have unconscious programming and beliefs, maybe they're not worthy or not deserving or it's not possible. And I have to say, like in my healing work, I've seen so many miracles. I'm not saying everybody gets a miracle, but many, many, many miracles. But it's not just about health, it's about everything in life. So the goal of this workshop is if somebody already feels they have a charmed life, to make it more charmed. And for people who feel it's sort of hit or miss, that consistently in their life they feel charmed. And I'm not going to get into details right now, but over the last 18 months, I've had huge challenges in my life for other people's health and for my health and just a lot of different things. And it's been so amazing because the whole time I have felt supported, magical things happened, the help I needed was there when I needed it, and just everything was charmed. And I want to be clear, having a charmed life doesn't mean you never get challenges or difficult things in life, because life can be that way. It's just, life is what it is. But when you have a charmed life, a lot of good things happen. And when there are challenges, the guidance and support is amazing. So the package, again, is these 6 sessions in the Energy of Abundance call. recordings that they can download of the Emotional Freedom Workshop and the recordings of the one-day Charmed Life Workshop. And they get all of those things.
That's amazing. Again, everyone, because I know you're going to want to check it out. To access this page for yourself, simply click on the special offer button that's on this page. Art, you've been amazing. You even stayed a little extra with us, which is just incredible. And I want to thank you so much. And, are there any final parting words you want to send us off with tonight?
Well, Jess, that when I say this, I want people to know I'm not just saying pretty thoughts. The more I do energy work, the more I see energies, the more this is absolutely true to me. Every single human being on the planet is this amazing, beautiful, and powerful spiritual being. Every single human being. And all of them can get in touch with their miraculous selves and let more of that manifest in their lives. And when you let it go into every aspect of your life, your inner wisdom and spirit, life becomes fun, delightful. And again, you just always know that you're being supported on a level that's truly, truly amazing. So my wish for all of them is that they really begin to totally, totally believe and get that they are amazing beings. And if they let more and more of that out into their life, they're not going to believe what they'll be manifesting.
Wow. I love that. And I love the repackaging. So again, everyone, definitely, if you're like, ooh, I want to shift some things from fantasy to reality, repackage it. If you haven't yet, just click on the special offer button on this page to see for yourself what an amazing package this is. You'll be glad you did. You're all extraordinary, and I am just blessed to be with you. And Art, thank you, thank you, thank you. I can't wait till we get to do this again.
Well, thank you. And it's a privilege to be on your show. You set up a wonderful energy, and I think the people listening to your interviews are very, very lucky. So thank you for letting me be one of the people who started this.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for everything you've shared. And bye-bye, everyone. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.